Please now welcome to the stage Lavish Jhamb, Senior Product Manager at Qualys, and Simon Gaiser, a cyber threat and vulnerability specialist at Transurban, for our final breakout session, where they will highlight the comprehensive coverage for compliance provided by Qualys File Integrity Monitoring. Lavish and Simon, please take to the stage.
Okay, so as you know, I'm Lavish Jhamb. I'm today going to talk about our file integrity monitoring solution. And you see this noise canceling, it's added for a reason. So we are the best noise canceling solution, FIM, because in FIM, the most critical issue is noise, and we have fixed that, right? So I'll be giving a demo on that as well, like how did we do it. So this question I wanted to ask you, how many of you are using Qualys Cloud Agent today? Wow. So how many of you know that this existing Qualys agent can be leveraged for file integrity monitoring as well as access monitoring? Nice. So the same agent can be used for access monitoring as well. So with this, I just wanted to discuss the fact that what's the success formula for a file integrity monitoring program, what is required, and what's the outcome, what should be the outcome if you have a FIM solution deployed in your environment. The first thing that you need is the seamless onboarding, right? Because the deployment of FIM sometimes becomes a tedious task. It involves a lot of manual work to deploy a FIM solution. So this is the most important part that you need is a seamless onboarding. And the next is very important. It's fine-tuned FIM solution. Because the major problem with FIM solution is noise, right? It causes too many false positives. And with those false positives, sometimes we just ignore the events or stop the alerting, both recipe for disaster. We don't want that, right? And the third piece is comprehensive FIM coverage. So we know that standards are growing day by day. For example, there was PCI 3.2.1. Now PCI 4.0 is effective, right? And from 2025 March, only PCI 4.0 reports will be considered. Now PCI 4.0 states that you need to have FIM on containers. It says that you need to have FIM on network devices, right? So the scope is being increased, and the comprehensive coverage is an important point. So what should be the outcome of a successful FIM program? Significant reduction in operational costs. You don't need to store events yourself. It should be stored on the cloud platform. Zero issues in meeting any compliance. So if you are deploying a FIM solution as a compliance checkbox, then there should be no issues pertaining to that, right? You should be having zero issues. So all of this, I'm here. I can guarantee you can get all of this with Qualys FIM. Now, FIM is, most of you must be thinking it's just a compliance checkbox. Why do I need it? See these stats. 45% of the ransomware attacks were making changes to the user files. Some were making changes to the registries for the persistent techniques. Some were using the rootkits. The rootkits were using the registry keys, modification in the registry keys. Now, if I knew that in real time, I would have stopped these breaches, right? That is why FIM is important. And I am not saying it. These security agencies, you can see NSC, and then CISA, CIS, all of them are recommending FIM. These are statements from them. Now, compliance also, it's the major use of FIM is, again, for compliance reasons as well. And this is a Verizon report that states that it has always been the biggest reason of compliance failures. If FIM is not there, or if it is not a true FIM solution, if it is not as effective as a FIM solution, it will cause you failures, right? So Verizon report states that FIM, if it is not there, it is the top 20, it's among the top 20 biggest gaps. It's always a reason for failure, right? And what is the cost of non-compliance? Your business comes to a halt. Now, deploying FIM is not that easy, right? There are challenges with it. Sometimes the leading vendors, it has been found, Qualys has raised a QID for a vendor. I won't name anyone. But there was a vendor, a leading FIM vendor. They were using the agents, which are using self-signed certificates, not enough security. failed to cover the blind spots, the network devices, containers, the access monitoring. So FIM is integrity monitoring. Changes on a file will be detected. But what if I am just accessing a file, copying the data, no changes at all? Would you be able to detect that? So there's a blind spot, access monitoring. Alert fatigue, another thing, right? So alert fatigue is probably the biggest challenge because noise leads to stopping of alerts. Now, what are the challenges with traditional FIM solutions, right? Even if you deploy a FIM solution properly, what are the challenges? Usability, right? The biggest challenge. And then impersonation is not detected. So if I am taking a remote of your system, doing the activity, your operating system will think that it's the anti-authority system user or kernel user doing the activity. But actually, I am making the changes, right? Which will be gone undetected. Traditional FIM solutions can't detect user impersonation. Unauthorized file access, not detected. There's lack of threat intel. There is, I mean, you will, if I, as a malicious user, add a bad hash in your monitored location, you have a traditional FIM solution going on, you will just see a create event, like file has been created. You will never know that it's a bad hash or something. So lack of threat intel is there, and then white noise, like if I do the patching, you will get a million events. You will never know that they came from Red Hat or they came from Microsoft. They are good changes. We can ignore that. So those things are not there in traditional FIM solutions. So what's the solution, right? Here is your solution, Qualys FIM. And we leverage the entire Qualys platform to give you this, to make this solution as effective as it is. So the first sensor that we are leveraging is Cloud Agent. Cloud Agent gives you FIM on host, servers. It gives you real-time FIM and real-time file access monitoring, FAM, as well. Now we talk about the other sensor, that is scanner appliance. That gives you FIM on network devices, right? So if any changes are there in your network devices, it will be captured. And then container sensor will give you FIM on containers. So all of your blind spots are covered by this. Now, what are the key features? Noise cancellation. I'll show this feature in the demo, that we are literally filtering out all of your white noise and canceling out the noise based on legitimate user and processes. We have done this exercise with the customers and eliminated 90% plus false positives there. And no, what's the advantage of reducing the false positive? You're not sending the data or bad data or false positive to your SIM solution. So your Splunk storage is not piling up, and you're not paying to Splunk more. Now, the other part is access monitoring. We provide file access monitoring too. 15%, this is based on anonymized customer data. So 15% of the accesses targeted highly sensitive files. If I knew that in time, I would have stopped it. The other capability that we provide is user impersonation, right? So we identify the user impersonation, a very key capability wherein if I am taking the remote of the system doing the activity, or if I'm impersonating some other user doing the activity, if I'm in Linux, I'm root, I switch to user Tom, does my activity, you'll be able to capture all of those, right? So you'll be capture both the users who did the activity, one who was doing the impersonation, other who got impersonated. Now, as I mentioned that we are using our scanner appliance to do FIM on network devices. You can see this. We capture all the high-risk activities in your network configuration. For example, here the logging activity got disabled, so you see before and after details of that. Integrated threat intel, we have it. So if the bad hash is dropped in the monitored location, we'll mark it, and we'll call that reputation status as malicious. With one query like reputation status :malicious, you'll be able to find all the bad hashes dropped into your critical monitored locations. Now, I'll be going towards demo, and in that demo, you will be seeing the easy onboarding to the automated FIM reports, and basically how easy and how easily it can be configured, and what are the key factors that we capture. You'll see all of that in action with the comprehensive report that your auditors love. So can we start with the demo? Yeah. So you have already tagged your assets, let's say, right? So you have tagged your assets. You call them PCI asset. You call them FIM_required asset. You've called them compliance assets. We know that, right, from your tagging. And from that, we'll do some intelligence and tell you that 23% of the assets tagged as PCI 4.0, FIM is not enabled on that. Do you want to enable it? Do you want to do the complete PCI 4.0 coverage? So you say that, yeah, I want to start the FIM onboarding, and we'll start it for you, all automated. The agents will be activated on those assets, and these other sensors will be activated on the required assets. And then wherever it is activated, you'll get to know that servers, containers, network devices, these have been activated for file integrity monitoring. And then you can select your regulatory compliance. For example, by default, we'll give you PCI. You can go for others as well. Now, the key area, I'll stop the flow here to show you this key area. I have activated FIM. Now, the most important part comes in. What do I monitor? PCI tells me that monitor all the critical files. NIST tells me that monitor all the critical files. But what are those critical files? So Qualys content team has has researched on those critical files and provided these monitoring policies to you, which contains those set of critical file paths. For example, if you go into the Linux one, all the critical file paths with their sections have been mentioned, right? These will go in real-time monitoring. You can always customize these. You can add more to it. You can add more inclusion, exclusions, everything to it. These are highly customizable, but these are provided to you. So you don't have to, your teams don't have to spend time in doing all of this, right? So all these rules are here. Next would be creating the correlation rules. For example, I have my monitoring rules. Sorry, this part, file access monitoring. So these changes will be taken care by file integrity monitoring. But do I need the access monitoring too? So if somebody is not making the changes, but they are accessing, getting the data, copy pasting, do I need to capture that too? Select this. This will be auto-selected, right? File access monitoring. And next part would be, if I'm getting all the events, do I really need all the events? Sometimes I would just need to correlate few events, right, and create incidents out of it. For example, see the first query. Malicious or suspicious hashes dropped in the critical locations. Query is already provided. Now, this query will correlate the events continuously every day and create an incident for you if these events are found. Similarly, there are hundreds of other rules that are provided, right? So like user impersonation events, PCI scoped assets for non-compliance, deletion of critical files by standard users. All of these will create queries and correlate the events into specific incidents, and those incidents will be sent to the required reviewer, right? So this person will get the incidents, and it is scheduled daily. You can change the schedule and everything as per your requirement. Similarly, for compliance, your auditors need a report. So setting up the reports, for example, the executive summary report and the non-compliant asset report. So non-compliant asset report is a new addition to PCI 4.0 scope, wherein they say that if the assets where you have activated FIM and FIM is still not working or non-operational on those assets, I need to know about those assets. That is really important. And we'll automatically create that report for you. In the dashboard, there will be a widget so that your auditors, SecOps teams, IT teams always know that which assets are non-compliant so that they can fix it. Right? So these reports will be scheduled for you. And this way, your FIM setup is ready, right? All of it out of the box. Assets configured, policies configured, correlation rules to correlate your events are configured, and reports are configured. Now, once all of this is done, events will start flowing in, right? Because your sensors have started working. Once the events start flowing in, your dashboard will be created. You can view the dashboard, and from the dashboard, in the dashboard, all the critical activities are captured. And in this dashboard, we'll just move from one widget to another. We'll show you what all we have captured by now. So let's say the first widget, which is sensitive data access events. So sensitive data access events on containers, we'll find that because we also capture the events on containers in real time. So the first event is the sensitive data access events on container. The source is container. And ID RSA is an important file, and somebody has accessed it. You see who has accessed it, on which all the container details, the node details, the cluster name, cluster ID, UID, etc. All of these details are there, right? So the events, the container events are captured with all the comprehensive details that are required by your PCI 4.0 solution. Not only container-based, we capture the host-based events as well. For example, see this host file. Somebody modified this host file. And as I mentioned, that in the who data, we also capture the user impersonation. So here, actual user was someone else, but effective user was captured as kernel user. It means somebody changed this file remotely, right? So in this case, we captured both the users. And success status also, if you see, was yes. So it means the change was definitely made. And what change was made, you can see line-by-line difference, that what exact change was made here. 2 lines were added. And these 2 lines are, basically they're saying that they're rerouting the updates, Microsoft updates. So somebody else can do the updates, and you will feel that Microsoft is doing the patching. So these kind of changes can be made, but we'll capture those, right, with comprehensive details. Not only this, like as I mentioned, that you can also capture. So from that user, we went into like the actual user we captured who did the activity. We wanted to see what else he has done. So we went into the user activity, and we saw on the top, you can see what all that user has done by now. He has dropped 2 malicious hashes in your environment. Check out those. So if I check that card, I'll know that this malicious hash he has dropped. You can review the hash. There is repetition status is malicious. We have all the details on which asset it got dropped, what was the exact location where it got dropped. You have all those details, right? And what else he has done? He has deleted some security logs. You know that too, right? So you have the complete details of the activity of that actual user who made the changes. Now, going back to the dashboard, we have, as I mentioned, we have FIM on network devices too. So in this widget, you will know that on which network devices these changes got made. And you click on the changes, you got the configuration drift, drill down into it, double click, and find out what was the exact diff. So here, somebody disabled the logging activity on a network device, so that whatever he does is not logged, and but that is captured. You see that it's disabled. So line-by-line difference of what has been modified, right? So all the network device critical configuration changes will be captured in on the scan basis, right? On the defined scan interval that you have. And now going to the assets part. This is the most important part, which I can assure that no other FIM solution has it. This is PCI 4.0 latest requirement that asks you to fetch the non-compliant assets. These are those assets on which you have activated FIM, but it's not operational, right? And anytime it's non-operational, you need to know that. And you can get that with one widget. So you just click on it. Here are 20 assets which are non-communicating, or there are poor agent health status. You get to know all of that, right? Now, the biggest problem in FIM with any FIM solution is noise, right? So you must have dealt, being security experts, you must have dealt with other FIM solutions. So noise has always been a problem. But with Qualys FIM, we have this Event Insights tab that tells you that which rule is generating all the noise, right? And you can filter that out in one go. So I'll tell you how. Here, the essential binaries are creating 1.52 million events, 91% of the noise. You don't have to analyze all the events. We give this finding on our Event Insights page. So 91% of the noise is coming from our binaries. So maybe patching activity or something, right? And you click on it, and we'll tell you that this user and process responsible for this many events, these are legitimate. We are giving our recommendation to you that these are legitimate user and process combinations. Do you want to reduce the noise? You say yes, and we reduce it. As simple as that, right? So we have given you these recommendations. Select your recommendations, and automatically exclude these for identified user and process combo. You confirm it, and your noise will be reduced. So 91% to 32%, right? So I mean, this will take time. Once this user and process combination starts getting effective, your exclusions are applied. When the manifest reaches to the host, you will start reducing the events. So noise reduction is fairly easy, right? And going further to the reports, as I mentioned, that what your auditors need, right? So again, compliance is it's a compliance requirement. Your auditors would need a report, right? So we create this report by default, this summary report, wherein you have all of these things in the report, right? So what is that? Total assets, on which assets you have activated FIM, that data, along with what all events are there from per source, right? What kind of events are there based on what action? Now, you also have this overview of events based on network devices and containers, along with the PCI requirement written over there in your executive summary report. It tells you that which requirement we are sufficing by doing in this particular report. For example, here we are showing the unauthorized access events on the host. This is the requirement that requires it. There we are showing the malicious hashes. We are capturing that particular requirement of PCI 4.0. So you have the complete coverage of your PCI 4.0 in this particular report, right? And all the requirements are covered. Log file removal, user impersonation, and yeah, false positive analysis and insights that tells you that which rule is generating the noise, and this 1.63 million, this event count is nothing but the noise. We're telling you upfront. And going further, how can you reduce the noise, right? So your executive might want to know that, okay, if the noise is there, how do I reduce it? Which are the top factors that are creating the noise? So you'll get to know that with this, that this user and process combo is creating this many events, can I reduce it? And then finally, the identifying the risk of compliance failure. As I mentioned, it's a new latest requirement which wants you to have those assets where FIM is not there or non-operational. If you see this, point 1 says that retrieving the non-compliant FIM assets, and FIM 2 says that what are those, like the requirement 2 says that those are not operational on the listed, FIM is not operational on the listed assets, and you get a clear list. And this is the list that your IT team needs so that they can fix FIM on those, and you get the real-time FIM working again, and you get compliant. So with this, my demo ends. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So what are the key takeaways, right? These would be the key takeaways of from our FIM solution, and the one which I want to highlight is you are not in continuous audit mode now, right? When your audit gets announced, you don't have to start looking for Excel sheets, spreadsheets, etc. Your reports are there, you're properly configured, you're good to go. Now, talking about the latest updates and roadmap, these are the latest updates that we have. We have introduced file access monitoring, impersonation detection, FIM on containers, and FIM on network devices. What's coming up in the roadmap is something that I've shown you in the demo, that is automated workflow, automated noise cancellation. And this is a key area, response capabilities in FIM, wherein you will be able to take actions by leveraging our custom assessment and remediation module. You'll be able to create scripts and take action, for example, isolating the host, killing a process, deleting a file or something, right? And then audit trails in FIM to capture the policy modifications. Finally, the executive summary that you just saw. So with this, I would like to call upon our customer from Transurban. He's Simon Gaiser, and they are using Qualys FIM since long, and they have been passing audit smoothly. So let's hear it from him.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm Simon Gaiser from Transurban in Australia, and I'm here to share the Transurban journey that we had with Qualys on a couple of items. First of all, risk-based vulnerabilities, and then I'll be talking about file integrity monitoring, which is Lavish's passion, obviously, right? Sorry, I just got some notes. Yes, so how is everyone today? I hope that you've been enjoying the session. Let me just go to the next screen. So this is a bit about me. So I am a CISP. I was happy to complete that earlier this year. And I have been about 8 years in cybersecurity, with the last 2 years at Transurban in vulnerability management. Firstly, a little bit about Transurban. You may have heard about us before. In the United States or Virginia, we are express lanes. In Canada, we are A25. And in Australia, we are Link T. So we're an Australian-owned company, and we're in the top 20 ASX companies. Since 2011, Transurban has partnered with Qualys for vulnerability and compliance requirements. So daily, all of us in cybersecurity, we face the battle against vulnerabilities, right? So we're going to share a little bit about how we think we're winning the battle. So Transurban had a problem. We'd been using the CVSS version 3 score for quite a long time. And maybe like you had high numbers of high critical vulnerabilities. We had 65% rated high critical. And we were keen to take advantage of the QDS score, which has the enhanced exploitable ratings for vulnerabilities. With 65% high critical, we were saying everything's critical, but in reality, if we're saying that, then nothing's critical, right? You might have heard that a little bit this weekend, right? Or this week from people. We were crying wolf far too often, and people weren't believing us when things were critical, right? And in reality, things were rated too high. We had too many as high critical, and we weren't set up for success, right? There were just too many for us to target within the high critical SLA. So our requirements were to use the newer Qualys detection score, which not only incorporates CVSS, but also exploitability, threat, malware, trending risk, and active threat metrics. We wanted to additionally prioritize using the business criticality and PCI, sourced from the ServiceNow, CMDB, and mitigate our internal vulnerabilities that were behind the firewall as well by so many points. So we wanted to rate the vulnerabilities internal lower than those external. So in ServiceNow vulnerability response, because we have vulnerability response rather than VMDR, we had trial VMDR, but we had vulnerability response, so we stuck with that just for this exercise. We integrated the QDS score, so we just turned on that additional integration, and then we basically performed a very simple formula where it was QDS plus 10 points for business criticality based on bronze, silver, gold, platinum, another 10 points for PCI, mitigated by 20 points for internal, which came up with a Transurban score, and then we used the similar Qualys scoring to map low, medium, high critical. We combine high critical at Transurban. And so, what were the results? So, happy to share with you all that our high criticals decreased by from 66 to 23%. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. And mediums decreased from 27 to 17, and lows increased from 6 to 59, right? So automatically you can see this is much more achievable, right? So this really helps us, and what we're trying to sell from a security perspective to remediation teams, right? So as I shared before, QDS does a much better job of rating actively exploitable vulnerabilities rather than theoretical. So moving on to Lavish's passion, winning the battle against unauthorized file changes. Who needs to deal with PCI? Who works for an organization that deals with PCI? All right, cool. So quite a few hands in the room. Yeah. So Transurban, we transact credit cards. So we have to comply with PCI standards. So how does file integrity monitoring help you if you've got PCI? Well, it gives you enhanced PCI audit logging. It enables the detection and alerting for unauthorized file changes. It helps the automation of audit log reviews, detection and alerting of failed control systems. And in addition, it provides auditing appropriate user accounts and access based on job functions, auditing appropriate data retention policies, and it can use identified attack pattern methodology to trigger alerting. So if you combine all those things, you get effective SOC management and being able to meet your PCI requirements. So what did the Qualys FIM implementation at Transurban look like? So basically we had existing agents, which we were able just to turn on the FIM profile. So we enabled those. We applied FIM profiles. We took a look at the events that were generated. We tuned those. I think Lavish has talked about the noise filtering that FIM can offer you. And then we integrated those with Splunk. And then with Splunk Phantom, we created incidents in ServiceNow, or we call it Service TU. And then that enables cyber defense teams to respond in a timely manner to incidents. And we have 24/7 monitoring, right? And additionally, we built dashboards for increased visibility for various people, right? So Qualys FIM can help you achieve your PCI, HIPAA, NERC, GDPR, CCPA, NIST, and NIS2 requirements. FIM is a great solution, providing you with the assurance that you're protecting your company and its customers effectively and reducing risk of compliance failures. And in addition, Qualys FIM comes with groundbreaking file access monitoring, or FAM, helping SOC teams track unauthorized access to sensitive data. Qualys has agentless solutions too, for example, capable of detecting and alerting unauthorized network configuration changes. I think that Lavish shared some of those previously, right? The Qualys FIM implementation at Transurban allowed us to utilize our existing cloud agents that were previously installed for vulnerability, and we had some on-prem ones as well. We used our ServiceNow PCI CMDB classification to target hosts that were PCI classified. And then we enabled FIM profiles and so on. Actually, I think I'm a few slides behind. In summary, we simplified PCI DSS compliance, we simplified our architecture and ease of deployment. We replaced a competitor product that had vulnerabilities and was end of life. We enjoyed the benefits of the noise cancellation. We reduced our administration overhead, or administrative overhead, through the integration. Our real-time monitoring was 24/7. We resolved vulnerabilities, and we rationalized our vendors as well. So we strengthened our partnership with Qualys. And we lowered our costs. Thank you all for your time today. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions from anyone, or nothing? Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon. I'm back again. So as you all know by now, Qualys FIM is the best solution. Scan this QR code, start your trial, and get your executive reports with us. With that, thank you. I'll take a leave. Bye.